Welcome to today's explainer for Class 6 Science. Today, we're diving into Chapter 3, Fiber to Fabric. We're going on an absolutely amazing journey to discover how your clothes are actually made, going all the way from a tiny little fiber to the finished fabric you're wearing right now.
So, have you ever stopped to wonder how that super soft cotton t-shirt you're wearing, or maybe that cozy warm wool sweater in your closet, actually came to be? I mean, think about trying to thread a really tiny needle and seeing the thread just kind of split apart, or accidentally pulling a loose string on a sweater and watching it unravel. Yikes, right? But seriously, what are those tiny threads actually made of, and how did they get there in the first place?
Okay, here's our agenda for today. We're going to cover an introduction to fibers, plant and animal fibers, spinning fiber into yarn, weaving and knitting fabric, and finally, we'll wrap up with a chapter summary and a quick quiz. Let's get into it.
Section 1, Introduction to Fibers. Let's start right at the beginning and break down the absolute basic building blocks of our clothes. Now, whenever you look really closely at a piece of cloth, you'll see it's actually made up of yarns arranged together. It's like a giant puzzle. But if you take just one of those yarns and scratch the end of it with your fingernail, you'll notice it splits into even thinner strands. So the big takeaway here is that fabrics are made of yarns, and those yarns are made of extremely thin hair-like strands called fibers. They are literally the starting point, the absolute basic unit of any textile you own.
Now, it's pretty fascinating that there's actually a big difference between the two main types of fibers we use today. On one hand, we have natural fibers. These are completely provided by nature, either from plants like cotton and jute or from animals like silk and wool. On the flip side, we have synthetic fibers. These are entirely man-made, created by humans and labs using chemical substances. Things like nylon, polyester, and acrylic, well, they all fall right into the synthetic category.
Section 2, Plants and Animal Fibers. Let's explore exactly where those natural building blocks actually come from. First up is a plant fiber you probably use every single day, cotton. Cotton plants love warm climates and are usually grown in places with rich, black soil. The fruits of the plant, which are called cotton bolls, are roughly the size of a lemon. When they fully mature, these bolls burst wide open, showing off these seeds completely covered in fluffy white cotton fibers. A field of cotton plants ready for picking looks exactly like a field covered in fresh snow. It's pretty amazing to see. Once all that fluffy cotton is picked from the bolls, well, we have a bit of a problem. We have to get the seeds out. To do this, we use a process called ginning, which basically means combing out the seeds from the cotton fibers. Now, ginning used to be done entirely by hand, using this large comb-like tool. But today, we mostly use big machines to speed up the whole process. Moving on, another incredible plant fiber is jute. Jute is super strong and coarse, which makes it absolutely perfect for making things like heavy ropes and gunny bags. It actually comes from the stem of a plant that grows during the rainy season. And get this, to harvest the fibers, the stems are just tossed into stagnant water for a few days until they literally rot. Yeah, you heard that right. Once that outer gummy skin rots away, the long, strong fibers are just separated out by hand. But nature doesn't just give us plant fibers. We also get some really beautiful natural fibers from animals. For instance, wool is obtained from the fleece of animals like sheep, goats, yaks, and, believe it or not, even camels. These fibers are incredibly soft and do an amazing job of trapping heat, making them perfect for your cozy winter sweaters. And then we have silk, a super smooth, strong, and totally luxurious fiber that is drawn directly from the cocoon of a silkworm. How cool is that?
Section 3, Spinning Fiber into Yarn. Okay, so now that we have our raw materials, let's look at how they actually get turned into usable threads.
Let's quickly track the life cycle journey so far. We harvest the raw fibers from the plant or animal. If it's cotton, remember we use ginning to comb out those tricky seeds. Then comes the real magic, spinning. Spinning is the process where a mass of cotton wool is drawn out and continuously twisted. That twisting motion brings all those tiny, delicate fibers together, locking them tightly in place to form one continuous, much stronger strand that we call a yarn. Now, you can actually spin yarn yourself just by pulling and twisting cotton fibers between your fingers. But to make life a whole lot easier, humans invented special tools. A super famous example is the charka. It's a hand-operated device used specifically for spinning. You've probably seen it before because the use of the charka was popularized by Mahatma Gandhi during the Indian independence movement. He actively encouraged people to wear clothes made of homespun yarn to promote self-reliance. It was a real game changer.
Another very simple, completely ancient hand-operated device you might see used for spinning is a hand spindle, which is also known as a tockley.
It essentially acts like a spinning top, twisting those drawn-out fibers into a sturdy, usable yarn. Of course, today, spinning yarn on a massive scale for the clothes you buy in stores is mostly done by giant high-speed spinning machines in large factories. Section 4. Weaving and knitting fabric. We've got our strong yarn ready to go, so let's move on to the final step of manufacturing, actually creating the fabric itself. To actually make the clothes you wear, yarns are turned into fabric primarily through two different methods: weaving and knitting. Weaving is the process of arranging two completely distinct sets of yarns together at right angles. Think of an over and under checkerboard pattern, using machines called looms. Knitting, however, is a totally different ballgame. In knitting, a single, continuous yarn is pulled into interlocking loops to create a piece of fabric. This is exactly why if you pull a loose thread on a knitted sock, the whole thing can just unravel continuously.
Before we move on, let's look at a pretty fascinating historical fact. A long time ago, before the sewing needle was even invented, people simply draped large pieces of woven fabrics around their bodies to make clothes. Early Indians actually wore unstitched cotton that was grown near the river Ganga. What's truly amazing is that this beautiful tradition continues even today. Iconic garments like the sari, dhoti, lungi, and turban are still widely used as brilliant unstitched pieces of fabric. Section 5. Chapter Summary and Quiz. Well, we have covered a whole lot of ground today, so let's wrap up our classroom explainer with a quick quiz to see just how much of this amazing journey you actually remember. Get ready. Okay, here is question number 1. What is the process of removing seeds from cotton called? I'm going to give you a virtual 5-second timer to shout out the answer. Think back to that combing process we talked about earlier.
All right, ready for question 2? What simple device, popularized by Mahatma Gandhi during the independence movement, is used for spinning yarn? Think about that big wooden wheel.
And for our third and final question, think really carefully about this one. Which fabric making process uses just a single yarn to make a whole piece of fabric? Remember that unraveling sock example?
Awesome job, focused learners. Let's check how you did. Number 1, removing seeds from cotton is called ginning. Number 2, that spinning device popularized by Gandhi is, of course, the charkha. And number 3, the process that uses just a single yarn is knitting. Did you get them all?
So to quickly summarize everything we learned in today's explainer, always remember that fabrics are made of yarns, and yarns are made of even thinner strands called fibers. Those fibers can be natural, coming straight from plants and animals, or synthetic, cooked up in a lab from chemicals. Spinning is that absolutely crucial twisting process that turns weak fibers into nice, strong yarn. And finally, weaving uses two sets of yarn, while knitting uses just a single interlocking yarn to create the wonderful fabrics we wear every single day.
It is honestly incredible to think about the ancient roots of our clothing, isn't it? Starting as just a tiny seed in black soil, or the fluffy fleece on a sheep's back. But it really leaves you wondering, with all the advanced chemicals and technology we have today, what amazing high-tech synthetic fabrics will science invent next? Keep that curiosity alive. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and don't forget to subscribe for more free CBSE science lessons. See you next time.